As researchers try to understand the causes of depression, they have discovered a complicated dynamic between genetics and the environment.
We all have a vulnerability, and the vulnerability is determined by two major factors. Genetic vulnerability, which accounts for about a third of risk for depression, and what I would call environmental perturbations, which would include early life trauma, child abuse and neglect, experiencing traumatic events as a child and young adult, poverty.
Surgeon and award-winning author Dr. Shep Newland believes that childhood trauma played a significant role in his illness.
Growing up with my father was unimaginably difficult. In the first place, here I was, a small boy of immigrant parents who couldn't read and write English, and all I wanted was to be an American. All I wanted was to be in this world and know this language and read these books. And my father, to me, when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, and even in my teens, was a Yiddish albatross around my neck. And then, of course, there was his temper, which would erupt in public places. Obviously, it would often erupt at home, but when I say erupt, that's a deliberately chosen word because it was so explosive and so unexpected, unpredictable. And to me, my father was the epitome, not just of failure, but of someone who looked ludicrous to the rest of the world, someone who seemed worthless to the rest of the world.
An ever-present dread of his father's moods made for an uneasy childhood. And then, at age 11, he lost his beloved mother. Despite these hardships, Shep rose from his immigrant ranks to attend college, and later Yale Medical School. He experienced a minor setback with depression during this time, but managed it with a few therapy sessions. Then, in his late 30s, his marriage of 12 years came undone. Its dissolution threw him into a dark despair.
Is there any human being who has ever lived who doesn't have such dark thoughts from time to time? Is there any human being who has ever lived who hasn't developed ways of getting out of those dark thoughts? And for most of us, those ways are somewhat efficient. But for some of us, those ways are self-contradictory. They just make things worse. And the more obsessional one is, the more one gets trapped in these convoluted notions of how to get out of the entrapment. They just go deeper and deeper and deeper. And there I was. I was chained. Everything about my mind was chained. And I knew something desperate had to be done.
The year was 1973. Despite the stigma of mental illness and the repercussions it could have on his life and career, Shep felt he had no other option but to check himself into a psychiatric hospital. Like Shep Newland, Deshaun Jawi Morris was also a victim of childhood trauma. Jawi is a member of the Bloods, one of the most violent gangs in America. Growing up on the streets of Newark, New Jersey, he and his friends have been involved in some of the city's more violent encounters.
It's just like you go to war. You don't know that you're gonna come home. You go in there and you fight it the best you can and you hope you make it up out of there. And that's what it is for a lot of us on the street. A lot of my homies, a lot of older homies that I know, a lot of my elders, a lot of these cats don't want to live this lifestyle, but what else is there to go through? So you learn to take that, internalize that, and make it work for you. So you be the baddest SOB you could be.
Jawi has suffered from early life trauma, which planted the seeds for his later depression. He was born into a world of neglect and abandonment, with an absent father and a drug-addicted mother. At age 9, Jawi was sent, along with his siblings, to live with relatives in Arizona.
My mother was supposed to actually come with us, but she sent us. You know, 1 month turned to 3 months, 3 turned to 5, you know, and she hadn't showed.
You don't even have to think psychologically to think that if you're very young and there's nobody there for you, the sense of helplessness and the sense of hopelessness and the collapse that you feel, it induces depression.
Like many children left on their own, Jawi adopted his peer group as his surrogate family.
Phoenix is infected with gangs. There's a lot of gang activity going on out there. So, when you step outside your household, this is what's out there waiting for you.
It didn't take long for gang members to come calling. Jawi's initiation into the Bloods took place when he was just 11 years old.
When you want to fit in and be accepted, you don't know what your limits are. And again, at that age, I really didn't understand the importance of what killing was. The gun is chrome with black electrical tape around the handle. Seconds before the showdown, with hands and fingers positioned around the gun, my anxiety thickens. I stick my head out the window, aim, and meet the eyes of the fool closest to the curb. Pop, 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 pop. Crips start running every which way. Somewhere around my third shot, I feel like I'm playing Duck Hunt on a Nintendo. Everything seems to reduce in speed. I feel a connection that no other feeling can replace. Jubilation at its purest and ripest form. It's the utmost penalty man can physically give and receive, and I'm behind it. I now got the power. I knew what I had done was wrong. I'm feeling bad inside, but I'm getting praised for it. That was my first day from separation from myself. Like, from that day forward, things changed for me because I knew what respect was. I knew how to get respect, and I knew how to equate respect and love and power, or I could put that all in one, and that was violence.
Take a walk into the dark side and feel our pain. See, what I call a family, you call it a gang. My brother Tim shot 9 times right in the street. My homeboy Mega killed the very next week. And you can't understand why I'm depressed and I don't get no sleep.
By age 13, Jawi found himself back in his old New Jersey neighborhood.
Gangbanging put Lil Duty in the coma. Put a bullet through Tank neck. R.I.P. he crossed over. Jawi, war the bloods in my veins. It's a rap.
Even though the life we living the life we living, they ain't necessarily got to choose that route.
The mortality rate among young people like Jawi is frighteningly high. We come from a background, or most of us come from a background where you expect to live to when you're in the 70s or 80s and so on. These kids, the idea is they may not make it to 20, but making it to 25 or 30, it's like, they don't even think about it.
While violence is not usually associated with depression, suicidal impulses or risky behavior can be manifestations of the illness.
On a few occasions, me and a couple of my partners, we would load up a 38, leave one bullet in, and we would really, I've done it about a half a dozen times in my life, and we would really take this game, take it seriously, get liquored up and really test our fate. All the while, we was living suicidal every single day of our lives because we was out on these streets with people getting murdered every day. It's just a different form of suicide, and that's what we said, when you gangbang, it's just a form of suicide as well.
Jawi's violent lifestyle caught up with him at age 23.
I went to jail facing attempted murder charge. My back was against the wall. Good comrade of mine was murdered in my neighborhood. I was fed up with it. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
6 months later, Jawi would be released from prison. He felt something had to change. He contacted Terry Williams, the author of an article about the influence of the environment on criminal behavior. Jawi hoped that she could empathize with his predicament. What he didn't know was that Terry had also struggled with depression and would later prove to be the pivotal figure in his recovery.